shake charge indicates that they are technically proficient.
Public's out there throwing darts to the board support. I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things.
Can we see the paperwork on this?
What's up? What's good, guys? It's 24 hours after one of the most important data dumps of 2026. All the trolls are saying, well, Jesse, you said there was going to be a breakout yesterday. Hold your horses. For everyone who doesn't get into macroeconomic trading, this is the December 30th FOMC minutes. It took 4 full business days for that to impact the market. Looking at BankerBot, one of the most prolific callouts of this year, it took 4 days for all this information to process. Looking at Bitcoin, that was the December 30th FOMC minutes. It releases. It's not until Thursday that traction starts to pick up and we start moving forward. Now, for everybody who's seen the FX schedule, we've got PCE inflation on Friday. And based on all this information that we're about to go over in detail, that has a treasure trove of data directly affecting CASPA, directly telling us, hey, this is when they can't tell us when the altcoin market directly is going to be down. What they can tell us, liquidity is going to be extremely scarce at this exact date. And we're going to show you that quote inside the minutes. Just so everybody understands, you're new to macro trading, this exact arrow, that's an FOMC minutes. This arrow is an FOMC minutes. It was inside. Right here, there was the FOMC meeting, and they said, we're going to halt quantitative tightening. And here they said, we're going to actually speed it up. So it's inside these documents. We get so much insight, even right here. On October 8th, 48 hours before the market crashed with the Morgan Stanley regulation, we read over that document and we pointed out to our whole group, there's a liquidity crisis because of the government shutdown. We can be seeing downside in the near future. And then boom, one of the biggest wicks. So inside of this document that I've already chopped it up, I've already read the whole thing, taken out all the parts about inflation, taken out all the parts about liquidity strain. And we're going to show you guys some uber valuable stuff, starting with the inflation, because this document has a treasure trove. We're not going to read the real thing because this might as well be written in a foreign language. The first 2 pages are just formalities, and then it's in this legal accounting language. And of course, they're making it as difficult as possible. If they put it in layman's terms, everybody would read it. And this is what separates the men from the boys. It's just like lifting weights, doing jujitsu. It's the people who go the extra distance, count their macros, spend extra time on the mat. Those are the guys that get ahead. And we're doing that with trading. Everybody wants the easy route. They want to hear about, oh, we're going to get 10x upside on this. I can't wait for the bull run. You know the type of content I'm talking about. It cheers us up, makes us feel good. This is that nerdy stuff. This is that next level homework research. Exactly. Yes. Well, there is a possibility that when it's released, we get an immediate trigger, but that's connected to the DXY. The only two times we've seen an immediate pivot was on the 9th and in July. Just recently, looking at the recent rally, which was juicy for select altcoins, it took 4 days. On BankerBot, it took 4 days. And with PCE on Friday, and as you're about to see inside this minutes, it's directly building up to Friday. Now, depending on what happens with that PCE inflation, if we get low inflation, epic. If we get high inflation, hands down, we're looking at a retrace. And we'll have time to react because even with an event on Friday, the institutional investors wait to manually position. So a lot of this is done with the DXY. As soon as the durable goods comes out, what's happening is the US dollar manufacturing was rising in some categories, crashing in others. So it was ultimately a neutral print, particularly to affect altcoins, that whenever you get neutral, it passes the buck forward onto the minutes. So we can see the DXY was really rising. When the DXY is rising intraday, it's difficult for altcoins to get traction. Then we had the minutes and we're still seeing more upside. What we want for the breakout scenario to completely roll out, Friday PCE comes in low, and here's why. And then the DXY will drop and we'll get more insight. So we have this whole quote with every topic they said about the minutes. We're only going to go to the long-term thesis here. Okay. Scrolling back to May 15th. This is the CASPA chart. Jerome Powell comes out. What does he say? We are changing inflation because of tariffs. We're going to possibly restructure the entire way we're processing inflation. We immediately recognize this emergency session to be extremely bearish. So we de-risk. We sell all our CASPA, we sell all our altcoins, and the market does have massive downside. The key here is this has created resistance. This is systemic resistance, and it's across different altcoins. CASPA bounced right off of that line at a rally in June. Tau, same exact thing. We got a healthy wick above, but look at how many times, boom, stopped out, boom, stopped out, wicked above, but stopped out at that May 15th systemic resistance. This is one of the key points inside this document that is so important. With the effect of higher tariffs on inflation, expect the wane to start around the middle of this year. And then we'll return to our normal disinflationary trend. Seems like a minute sentence, has massively high impact. What it's explaining is they're projecting by this summer, altcoins will have subsided from tariff inflation. It'll all be under control by this summer. That means that 12-cent resistance on CASPA, we will now be able to surpass that. That level is directly correlated with this macroeconomic headwind. Participants generally expect that the effect of tariffs on core goods would start to diminish this year. And then that next paragraph says, around summertime. So by summer, CASPA, Tau, as long as liquidity is abiding, we'll be able to start breaking down that resistance. And now we're starting to get towards, we can now start to make new all-time highs. It says that right inside the document, because then we can start fighting into our previous disinflationary trend. The Fed's pushing back. They're pushing back the inflation deadline of 2% to 2008. The faster we can get there, as it explains, we have tons of captions from this document the faster the Fed's going to go to hard quantitative easing. That's going to be a huge cycle pivot and exactly what we want to see. So what about the all-time bottom? This is huge for anyone buying altcoins in the top 100, for anybody purchasing Caspa. This is going to totally gel with you instantly. So similar to the central bank's huge stockpile of bonds and cash, there's something called the Treasury General Account. This is being run by Scott Bessant. You guys have probably seen him on the news. He talks about crypto. Notice this date, April 9th and July 16th. This is when Scott Bessant injects all of that liquidity from the Treasury General Account right into the economy, specifically favoring crypto. Looking at the total 3 chart, oh, it just so happens to be that that's the exact dates those minutes were released, and there was monster rallies in altcoins. Here's what happens first. The TGA gets a refill in April, and this is what the Fed's saying directly with the RMPs. This is their T-bill repurchasing. This is just how they're fixing the liquidity crisis from the government shutdown, getting everything back up to normal. Remember, this bear market crash, much different than the previous cycles. This isn't full quantitative easing. That's why it only impacts 2 sectors in the altcoin market, things connected to treasury bills and artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is the backbone of the United States economy right now, kind of like steelworking was in the 1920s. It reads, with RPMs continuing, reserves will increase until April, and then they're going to drop quickly. Just like in the October 8th FOMC minutes when they said, hey, liquidity reserves are dropping quickly right now. Look out. And then here, they're saying liquidity is gaining. Right when the Treasury General Account takes all this capital from the banking system, your taxes going to the White House, this is a liquidity contraction event. And this is short-lived. It has a fast bounce back, can get us the ultimate uber absolute low on top 100 projects. You're waiting to buy Caspa, Bitcoin. This is the hypothesis I'm going with. So if that makes sense to you, smash the like button. It's very grounded in macro data and historically. Look at this. So here at the FOMC meeting, they're talking about halting quantitative tightening. That's super bullish, but here's the issue. We start to rally and then it goes, oh yeah, now there's going to be this huge Treasury General Account drawdown. They're just absorbing all this cash from the banking system. And that's kind of similar to what's just started happening in October. The government shutdown caused artificial liquidity crisis, so we're going to get one of those big, juicy wicks. So if you're waiting in dollar cost averaging into cash, this system will give you a thesis on how to maximize those purchases. Maximize them. Now, for action swing traders like myself, we recognize artificial intelligence, some treasury bill projects. We can capture gains similar to the banker bot trade, directly connected with macroeconomics. River, the juiciest swing trade of 2026. What are the juiciest swing trades of all time? Half a dozen trading plans, because with that RMP, while they're repurchasing treasury bills, creates a flywheel effect, rocketing this to the upside. Huge breakout for River once they announced it. And this was an easy prediction because at the meeting 2 weeks before, Powell explained how they're going to start treasury repurchases. So we already knew to an extent what was going to happen inside the FOMC minutes. So here's part 2 of inflation, and this zooms into right now. Anyone who's looking for action swing trades on their side bags, yeah, right now it's ultimately a sit on your hands market for myself, waiting for that ultimate low in April that we know is coming. What we can see in this entire document, we'll start off right on the top. What this is saying, in the event inflation were to decline, then they'll be willing to cut rates. So there's a direct correlation here with the rate cut cycle and quantitative easing when they're going to unleash bonds. They talk about that in this document. The most bullish event for Caspa possible. They're going to be watching inflation closely. We had an action-packed macro lineup just this week. CPI last Friday. And then we had durable goods this morning. We got a neutral print on durable goods. At the same time, an FOMC minutes, here's the kicker. We've got PCE in 24 hours, less than. It's happening in 12 hours. In the event that PCE comes in bullish across the board, every metric positive, undoubtedly, in my opinion, our target altcoins, Clanker, Tau, are going to start to rally. Jumping over to the Clanker chart, yeah, it's holding very steady at this level, akin to what BankerBot did after the last FOMC minutes. We're going to live stream on Sunday at 3 o'clock. This is when the DXY reopens. Members of our VIP trading group already know this is one of the most important times to be at your terminal, to track when the gains are going to happen. And in the event we get a bullish PPI, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. We're going to get some strong moves in target projects on Sunday, but it's all coming down to this Friday's PCE. All these macro events are so stacked tightly together. Look at this. We got jobs report, CPI, durable goods, FOMC minutes, and PCE for a bear market rally. And this will be such a strong catalyst, it'll affect the DXY. The reason why we didn't get a breakout on the day is because we got a DXY rally. When we get an intraday DXY dump and the institutional investors are interested in purchasing, that's when it's on. And institutional investors will be tracking inflation data like a hawk. Each one of these quotes, most participants, however, caution progress towards the committee's 2% objective, saying we might need to go slower, all based on the risk of inflation. Inflation this, inflation that. They're obsessing over tariff inflation getting brought down first, which is CPI directly. This is going even deeper into the FOMC minutes. Like we mentioned in the beginning of the videos, this is the most important event that happens in crypto. You've got $10,000, you've got your life savings in crypto, and you haven't read the FOMC minutes. I have no sympathy for you because you deserve to lose. You're not doing your research. You've been distracted. You're leading the wrong bunny trail. That's an FOMC minutes. That's an FOMC minutes. That's an FOMC minutes. And right here is another FOMC minutes. It's all connected, and can get reads from it. We've gotten them in real time, showing what's happening and how it's going to affect altcoins. This minutes, while we were leaning on it, anticipating it would be bullish, came in a bit neutral. That's why it's passing the buck onto PCE Friday. So the Saturday and Sunday live streams are going to be epic, particularly Sunday in the scenario we get a bullish PCE, because we'll get to do live action breakout tracking. They'll be huge. Smash that like button, guys. This is the deep end of what goes on in crypto study. Right here, the entire market, they're super bullish. We planned for 45 days, sell our bags, and then again caught it on May 15th. Everybody, these huge channels, they all started saying, oh, we hired a macro specialist. We're now incorporating CPI data in because even though we have 10,000 subscribers, We had one of the top 100 highest paying patrons in the world for everything, cooking shows, talk shows. The Jesse AI channel, we were dishing out so much alpha right on the nail of the head. Crypto Banter, huge channels. They started mysteriously adding macro trading, something that they kind of overlooked before. We're in the process of building right now a textbook, how to trade CPI, and we're showing not back tests. Back tests are worthless. We're showing you our predictions. We're going to track, hey, every PCE data drop, we are able to accurately predict market sentiment 88% of the time, and we are able to accurately connect that to the top 10 breakout projects in the entire altcoin market over half the amount of time. And those are real statistics. This is like undeniably the best system possible. So we're creating a textbook style course. Not everything osmoses well in video. Imagine you're doing algebra 2 in video, written down. You can go forwards, backwards, recheck your work, scan the entire page. This is something that you're going to want written down. It's ultimately our VIP group just on steroids. We've already got the printout section. We've got the new member fast track showing what we do, how this works. We're just going to totally dig into that and get ready to rock. So PCE. Huge. Let's talk about Caspa for a second. Let's get into when the big day is for Caspa, because honestly, if you guys are a VIP member, jump into this, take a look. Once the next FOMC minutes comes out, we'll periodically release these and leave them in the description so you guys can check out what valuable information pertaining about how this system works and a detailed study of, in this point, every inflation topic they made. So scrolling down to how this affects Caspa. The inflation data. And by the way, as soon as the United States president took office, economists around the world were thinking inflation's going to crash the market. Inside of our trading plans, we were like, yo, watch out. Here comes inflation. That was one of the main reasons why we de-risked. So this inflation from tariffs is a huge catalyst. It also changed GDP. Right now, imports are down, exports are up, and AI has become the backbone of this economy. In the event the AI sector takes a dip, the entire United States could be in trouble. It's deeply ingrained in our entire system. April. Absolutely April. We just went over that entire theory. This is gem. We'll put a menu screen when we reprint this up. Just like the last cycle, when the Treasury General account, Scott Bessant's bank account, they withdraw all the taxes from the banking system. This is going to make their liquidity thin according to the central bank. And then they hand that liquidity to Scott. And what's he going to do? Pump crypto. That's exactly what he's going to do this time. In my opinion, the Clarity Act will be coming out right around this time. That will be one of the most God level call outs, one of the most uber Chad call outs in the scenario. They released the Clarity Act right around April as the Treasury General account wicks the market to the downside and then starts to pump the market to the upside. They'll start to rally the troops to buy in the heat. So wait for that dip. That'll be your exact low. Here is answer number 2. This is a 3-part answer, Jeff. Caspa's breakout procedure. Step number 2, and this goes for all altcoins. This May 15th resistance based on tariffs, stopping so many charts, good charts, dead in their track, not just Caspa, Tau. And you can go into almost any altcoin chart, open it up, particularly in the top 100, and you'll see May 15th, massive resistance. It's a no man's land. This is part of why the market just had to capitulate. Once they're able to dismiss tariff inflation, which is CPI and PPI, It's important to know all the difference. Then altcoins, Caspa will be ready to challenge and fundamentally ready to surpass this massive inflation resistance. It's a macro trend line that so many people have a total blind eye to. Crypto banter, no BS crypto. These guys never use macros. They always want to go over and show you what the all-time market cap's going to be, what the fear and greed index is. But as we dig into this, super nerdy might not be the most fun pastime, way cooler to watch Netflix and chill. But if you can sit down, spend 2 hours, read over this, take notes, you might just get some insight. And if you want to compare those notes to mine, jump into the VIP, because we got a 2-year journal just filled with everything about every event. And of course, we're building that into a course right now. So once CPI and PPI get under control, PCE and broader inflation will be coming down as well. Caspa can start to challenge, test, and approach that level. Now, in order for all-time highs to be made, in order for Solana to print a new all-time high, for this to really start to rock and roll, Caspa included, we need to get into long-term quantitative easing. And the Fed starts talking about that in this document. For VIP members, we've only got the first 2 talking points broken down in a summary. Makes it way easier to Eve. I just cut, copy, paste every single quote that they have about artificial intelligence, inflation, labor markets, quantitative easing. That way it's less of a headache to read, it's smooth, and it has its crypto impact. Just to give you a preview of the AI, and this is gonna have something to do with it. This is gonna have something to do with when they go for long-term quantitative easing. That's going to be what capitulates everything to the upside. They want, and this is in writing, they want to reach that 2% inflation or get really close to it. Close enough so it's been trending downward year over year, 2.3, 2.4, or maybe even we got a surprise print and it was actually 2 once. That's what they're looking for to drop the hammer, to do the long-term bond release. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was what everybody was anticipating for this previous cycle that we never get. They never really unlocked the long-term bonds. This entire cycle that we just experienced, the majority of the time they were doing quantitative tightening. So that's monsterly bearish once they finally flip. Meanwhile, we've got institutional money backed up around the gourd, just waiting to jump in, waiting to get busy. And now the Fed goes, oh yeah, we're going to unleash the long-term bonds heavily. Change their balance sheet. That will rocket altcoins. That's your 2030 cycle peak. Here's a really easy solution for anyone to get rich. Simplifies everything. Just buy Caspa, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or a mix of them. Take any projects out of the top 100, create a minimal portfolio. You do not want to go over 5 picks. The less picks you have, the better. Let's just say you go all in Caspa. Your plan is, I'm not going to sell one Caspa, even if it's a clear as day market top signal. I'm just going to keep dollar cost averaging until then. I'll use the macroeconomic insights to figure out when I'm going to dollar cost average into cash and wait for inflation to cause a dip. And then right before the labor market rotates everything back up, then I'll purchase. And so on and so forth. Getting yourself more bang for your buck. You'll be able to study the market, throw some technical analysis on there. And then in 2030, it's like that savings count that just compounds. But instead of 5 or 10% in your bank, you eventually get that 10x, 50x upside. That is the formula, guys. That's the formula. Now, with your side bags, let's say you're doing that with the majority of your portfolio, but you want to actively swing trade side bags. You like meme coins, or you want to test your resolve, test your skill set in the use case. I'll tell you straight up, flat down, we've always beaten the meme coin market. For 10 million market cap and up, whenever there's huge breakout events, it's the utility projects, the DEAI, the Moonwells during the rate cut cycle. We always outperform them. Just recently, River, the 30x upside at the FOMC meeting, and then BankerBot at the durable goods, rocketing to the upside. Use a 10% allocation and you get one big hit. You get one 10, 20, 30 Xer. Dude, you just got a lot more CASPA to superset your position. So we're going to be going over a guide on how to do that and include it in this really complex macro textbook, because bottom line is that's the best way moving forward. Whether you want to do a portfolio of your top 5, top 100 projects, even throw one long shot in there that's a low cap, keep a base that you're dollar cost averaging in using macros, and then swing trade 10%, swing trade 20%, swing trade a side bag, keeps you active, and eventually you catch that dream hit. Crypto's a lot like fishing in terms of it's about a 45 to 90 day period before you're going to catch a fish. With fishing, it's like every 15 minutes you throw out your rod, you wait around, or if you're fly fishing, it's like 15 casts. With crypto, it's 90 days. That's going to give us 2 FOMC meeting cycles. That's about how long it's going to take to catch a really nice swing trade. And like we were talking about in yesterday's video, in the event PCE comes in bullish Friday, there are swing trades set up for that. Yeah, I just got off the bike, the pedal bike. It gives me more, it's hard to do a live stream, guys. There's a lot more to trading to this. You can have the best trader in the world. They don't speak publicly. They don't have audio video skills. That's why a lot of this information is in the lesser known channels. And you get these projects like No BS Crypto, House of Crypto, very entertaining. Seems like it has something to do with your bag. It's worthless, man. It's just, they're just talking gibberish, gobbledygook about crypto. They're not really cutting edge insight. Straight up, this Patreon group, to show how subscribers are kind of meaningless, was the top 100 earner of the year, of the month in 2024, 2025 for everything. Cooking shows, talk shows, you name it. So tons of alpha connecting, a lot of people able to understand the value, able to break the barrier of trading skills to audio, video, to auditor. It's really complex. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching right now at home, you have a ton of knowledge that you share. You might not have the audio, video skills or the time to go over your public speaking to make it correctly. Yes. The monster pump on CASPA is only going to come with inflation. The entire FOMC minutes that was just released for everybody in VIP, that first summary that we did, it's 100%. They're just confirming, yeah, your crypto bag is going to depend on inflation dropping. That's everything that this document says in detail. The Clarity Act. This is beautiful. I want to bring up something here. Similar to the Clarity Act, whenever you get news, regulation, we see this with on-chain. Remember CASPA right before the rate cuts of 2024? CASPA comes in. What do they want to do? They want to do an on-chain upgrade 48 hours next to the rate cut. You think they might understand what we're talking about? What we teach inside our VIP group? What's going to be inside our textbook of how to trade macros and hybrid styles? No back test. We're not using any back tests. We don't have to. We're going to show you how amazing this was at predicting the future. We've got like probably a 80 to 90% sentiment accuracy. Like, is it bullish or bearish? We're able to predict that. And we're not talking about 2 weeks in advance. We need to see the data. Okay. Like yesterday's video, I kind of put my neck on the line trying to predict the data. You have to see the data, which comes out at 5:30 in the morning. And then you're able to analyze the market reaction. Luckily, FOMC minutes have a delayed reaction. Remember, 4 to 5 business days on the total 3 from the last FOMC minutes, 4 to 5 days on Bitcoin, and that was the same on Banker and our target altcoins. So with the Clarity Act, this is such a good question, and I really wanted to share this. So right around here in April, we're looking back to 2024. That's when Scott Bessant injected his liquidity from the Treasury General account. The FOMC minutes just said, look out, because there's going to be a big spike down. Banks are going to be pulled out of liquidity. That's your tax dollars in Bank of America getting removed to the White House so Scott Bessant can pump crypto. Literally, chain of events going to happen in April. So when it dips down, when Scott gets his money, the DXY will be affected and the liquidity will be affected. And then therefore there'll be downside in crypto, just like October 8th. We put together based on the minutes, hey, look out, there's a liquidity crisis. We might see some downside ahead, or we will see some downside based on it. So what we're seeing here is similar to Casplex with the rate cuts. We're seeing, you guys ever hear about how there's like fake ceasefires in the recent Ukraine conflict and everything? We're seeing a similarity with bullish news, bullish events like that huge event right here. And then the news is coming out with something that the general retail public, that House of Crypto, that no BS crypto, they're going to talk about it, right? Crypto banter. This is headline. Oh, the ceasefire. This is what's going to cause all this upside. The ceasefire. When what's actually happening is what we just explained. Right before that pivot, there's a ceasefire here on March 11th. Okay, super bearish jobs report. Ceasefire comes in, and then there's a CPI that everybody knew was going to be bullish. So a lot of times we see these working hand in hand, and it impacts the rate cycle. So with the Clarity Act, I don't know if you can bet on this on Poly Market. 100%. This is going down with the April deal that we just explained. 100%. Probably after, right? Because why after? First, Scott Bessant, he wants to get his. He wants to get it low before the ceasefire, before the Clarity Act. Then the general retail. Right? Like anything you see on the news that's bullish for crypto isn't the real signal. And you're a dollar late. You're a day late. Does that make sense? So with the Clarity Act, here's what I think about that. And we have a full summary for you guys. I'll put it in the comments. The Clarity Act, very simple. It's going to come late. It's going to come after there was a huge bullish pivot, probably from Scott Bessant. That's what all of my records from keeping this detailed journal. And people think, okay, PCE data coming out on Friday. If that's low, like we said, it will be the final macro cluster confirming upside breakout One of VIP group members I was chatting with this morning said, yo, Gareth Soloway is bullish. I don't know if you guys know who Gareth Soloway is. Shout out. He's not paying me to do this. He's the OG of technical analysis. He does Bitcoin and Ethereum. And right now he's saying Bitcoin and Ethereum are getting ready to pivot to the upside. Remember, we just went over historically. It can take 4 or 5 days. You can get a huge fake out to the downside, and then the incoming rally. So right now, because I did that really clickbaity title, like tomorrow's breakout, and I'm getting a lot of slack, but once PCE comes in on Friday, Gareth Soloway's thesis for Bitcoin and Ethereum can break out right now is 100% validated, in my opinion, and we're going to see a bear market rally. It's going to hit the AI sector and target altcoins better. So some people are saying, well, we've got a triangle here, and once we break underneath that triangle, it's invalidated. In fact, from keeping a record of every triangle that's been formed over the past 2 years, we found the exact opposite. We found that before triangles break out to the upside, let's look at our pattern directory for symmetrical triangles. So here's an example of a downside symmetrical triangle on Caspa. We've got those 2 repeating trend lines. You guys subscribe to this channel. You already know that. How about a thumbs up, guys? How about a like? Subscribe, because this weekend, once that PCE comes in, we're going to do a live stream on Sunday and actually kind of trade, find out what's breaking out at 3 o'clock on Sunday when the DXY reopens. It's something we always do in VIP. It's going to be super fun. Saturday, we're going to review the PCE data and say, yo, it's on or it's been invalidated. Look at this. We get a fake out to the upside, and then we get a crash when the symmetrical triangle breaks bearish. Here's a bullish one. We get a fake out to the downside, and then we get an upward rotation. And we found through recording this, these are obviously just Caspa charts, but Aerodrome, everything, we're seeing a ton of these fake outs to the downside before an upside breakout. So with Bitcoin, this is a major invalidation point right here. This was the CPI low. So CPI came out on Friday and it was bullish. Zooming in. Yep, there's our CPI and it's bullish. On altcoins, we break below that. For technically, now we're looking at a bearish structure. From macros, it's all about that PCE data. It's coming out 5:30 a.m. Set your alarms, and you can see there's a good chance that we'll get a market reaction. Whenever you see a print on Friday, it's usually labor market, and that will be delayed until Monday. It's called Why Monday Matters. It's a study not just done by our trading group, but done by tons of crypto participants around the world. Let me see if I can bring up this article done by like Bitfinex or Monday Matters. Yeah, and they've got these articles. They actually track each and every day of the week. So with a Friday print, that's why you want to catch this live stream on Sunday. It's going to be good. They track each day of the week. See on this image right here? Let's zoom in here. Yeah, we can't get a good zoom in, but it's saying almost every breakout's on Monday. I'll leave that in the comments for you guys so you can check that out. Okay, I'm not a CPA, but I can tell you this. You want to get an LLC inside the new legislation by the White House in the event you own real estate, over 6 properties. Talk to your accountant about real estate write-offs. Let's say you own an LLC, and this can be a data center. Be very careful, you guys, when you go into the corporate world and you try to license your crypto business, right? Whether it's a garage mining, that's how my crypto business started. I just had a residential data warehouse. near the strip, they don't even track electricity, which was pretty awesome. You don't want to list it under crypto because that was part of the Obama and Biden administration. They're trying to debank crypto. So you want to connect it to like computation, computers, call it a data center. Don't put the word crypto in the business title. That's a big no-no. Talk with your accountant. You can buy equipment for your business. Let's say that you cash out this year and you get flat out $1 million, $500,000 even. Big cash out. You're like, dude, I am not giving the United States government half of that, right?
Exciting now.
Your accountant might be able to help you buy a gym for $100,000, okay? As part of your LLC. Might not be the most profitable business. People always wonder, what's going on in the middle of the mall with all these kiosks and what's going on with Mattress Warehouse? They have these insane theories like, dude, there's only so many amount of people in the world, but if you look at any city, there's like 50 mattress dealers. There's no way they have any business. What you're seeing is people that are growing their business. And this is all depends on state to state, and you have to talk to an accountant. I'm not certified. This could be completely wrong, completely false, but that's something that I look into. Yeah, and the hash rate's down. Look at the good side. Caspa's still in the top 100, and ultimately, what this has just shown us for Caspa, and this is a thesis that we had regardless, Caspa's front running the market. The institutional investors, Marathon Digital, right? The big dogs involved with Caspa, they might be privy to more information than us. They may have projected, let me get rid of all these drawings. They may have projected the downside was coming before we could read it in the macro data. And there's ways to do that. You can see when the jobs is going to drop or rise based on wages, based on shipping. There's deeper systems to what we're doing on this channel in this video. We're like novice. These guys are like black belts, grandmasters, right? Inside of BlackRock. And believe you me, they are doing exactly this. Now, in terms of on social media, we're hands down the best. There's one other guy that I want you guys to take a look at. His channel is pretty good. It's called Traders Reality. So if you dig this YouTube, if you think we've got some pretty decent stuff here, definitely check out Traders Reality. He's from England. This dude right here, he also does macroeconomics, same stuff that we do. He's connecting his altcoin bag, mainly trades Bitcoin and Ethereum, directly to macros. So some alternative sources for you guys. Okay, since you're asking, dude, I've got some awesome insight on Tibber. Okay, now I've been up piling through for my guys. I post, you guys remember over the past like 90 days, the government was shut down. There was no macro prints. We're so bearish. I'm like, dude, I'm not even going to do any uploads, right? We're going to do like one a week just to keep everybody going. If anything's going on, take a break, chill out. I've got a restaurant, an Airbnb to manage, getting everything else in order. And now that we're getting, more's happening in crypto, we're starting to pick up the pace. We're always posting inside the trading group. So while we've been completely inactive in video format, behind the scenes with our members, we've been doing tons of research. This is how we were able to dig up this gem on that river breakout and the banker bot breakout, which is way more in tune with your question and the answer that I'm going to give you. Also, this FOMC minutes with the PCE data coming up, it could be an initial catalyst that later, perhaps at a labor market print, or the next durable goods. Who knows? It could be setting up more breakouts from February to March, this 45-day period. Remember, we're just like fishing. Fishing, it's like every 15 casts for fly fishing. With crypto, it's 45 to 90 days to really
exciting now.
Really catch a good swing trade with our side bag allocations. So for Tibber, it's an AI agent, and guess what was inside this FOMC minutes? I'm still processing all the talking points for our group members, because trying to read the minutes, I'll link it for you guys because I know you're probably interested in taking a look at it. The thing is, it's a lot harder to process than people think. It takes a lot of time. You probably have better use of your time. And just like BlackRock, people that are a high net worth, they build a team around them when they know they can delegate. Okay. So what team members do with our group is they delegate to me. If they're newer traders, they're learning the entire system. If they're experienced, they're delegating. And we make sure that we have, dude, we got friendly prices. I remember when I was transferring from stocks to crypto, I'd be like, dude, 150 bucks. If it was 50 bucks, I'd check it out. We keep our prices super cheap, just so everybody of every different skill, lector, and financial class can jump in and join. If you're rich, this is a steal. So we'll break down each talking point. And while I was breaking down the talking point for artificial intelligence, I found an answer to your question. Jobless 330. What's up with Tibber? Here's the direct quote. A few participants mentioned reports from business contacts that firms were automating more operations and using other measures to offset cost increase, which would reduce the need to pass those CPI inflations onto PPI inflation. So there's a lot to unpack in that one article. Remember how in the beginning of this video, we were talking about step one, according to the Fed, they need to get rid of tariff-based inflation. That's what caused that huge May 15th resistance. That's stopping out every top 100 altcoin. Tau, Caspa, Render, Virtuals, they all tried to bounce above this May 15th level, and none of them made it. What we just read was explaining AI is fighting tariff inflation because they're using AI agents like Tibber, basically. Now, a lot of this isn't being done on blockchain right now, but we all realize the most efficient way to do it, the evolution eventually will come directly to these AI agents running on-chain, because the payment rails, supply chain, let's say you're a trucking company, there's a hurricane. You need to get more water bottles from Texas to Florida. You've got to get an empty truck. You've got to get the water bottles. You got to get the drivers. You got to front the money. You got to map the entire thing. Done by humans, these people are going to dehydrate before we even get it done. Using AI agents like Tibber, it's the evolution. It's the next stage, hands down. So all of these AI agents in general, the impact here, the rise of AI agents will reduce inflation, help with rate cuts, and the Fed had a lot more to say inside this document. Jumping over to virtuals, and I'm heavy right now in Clanker, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, looking at virtuals. Here's May 15th. Notice any similarities? Right? May 15th, boom, resistance, resistance. It's all over the place. It's huge. And when this CPI, PPI inflation gets handled next to CPI, that's going to be the invitation. That's going to be the systematic. That's going to be the fundamental outlying macro data that's going to open the door for altcoins. The institutional investors will then have a heavy interest, and it's when they start allocating that it really matters. The reason I like Clanker more than virtuals, and going with an individual agent is great. There's a lot of risk to that, but it's absolutely epic when you connect. I like Clanker. For one, we know with virtuals, with any launch pads, with DeFi in general, we're selling the pick and shovel for the mining, right? We're getting a way broader allocation into sectors. Going with specifically Tibber obviously adds more risk. This project has a huge burn mechanism. There's only 1 million tokens. It just had an official smart contract audit. It's constantly been spiking up to $100. It really in this consolidation phase right now, akin to early virtuals. We're talking early virtuals back here. To give you some context why big channels just give kind of confirmation bias and they don't give actionable information. You guys know BitBoy, right? BitBoy Crypto. He got sponsored by virtuals. They gave him something that would have equivalent to like 10, 20 million USD in virtuals at its peak, like a 10, 20 million bag, like some huge bag. And he sold it at like 2 or 3 cents at the bottom. This is something that we studied in detail. I remember one of my VIP members pointed out to the entire group inside Discord and to me personally how he felt that this project Virtuals was going to get ready to rock and roll. And we were able to catch on to its upside fairly early. But right now, Clanker, way different. Let's get into the Tibber chart and the crypto rank information, because we'll be able to extract some stuff here that's really big on this the entire narrative. Now, remember, we're connecting your question about Tibber directly to the FOMC minutes. 1 second. Inside this document that just got released, they're actually saying, whoa, AI agents are in that document? Dude, we know this is big. Now, remember, in the last FOMC minutes, it's like somebody was spray painting the word April all over it. And in this one, again, we went over that April thesis that they confirmed again. They did talk a lot about AI in this document as well. In the last FOMC minutes, it was on the front page. Virtuals on base. Tibber is a payment rail AI agent, if my memory serves me correctly, right? Fairly bullish. The entire sector right now is go. But oh yeah, here's the point I'm trying to make about these AI agents. Virtuals versus Clanker. So with the initial launch of virtuals, it was a lot of chatbot agents. What Clanker does better and what virtuals and Pump Fund are lagging in is Clanker is able to do on-chain execution. They can actually do a wallet transaction. So moving forward in 2026, Tibber's good, but any new gems you're verifying, in the last live stream, somebody pulled one up called AOI on Dex Screener because it does wallet transfers. That's going to be huge. That's the next step. So virtuals was almost like the demo, right? It's like chatbots. Oh, look, this is a meme coin that's not just a picture.
Exciting now.
This meme coin can actually talk to you. And retail was like, oh my God, this is it. I'm going to be a millionaire. What's happening behind the scenes right now with smart contract verification right before the Coinbase listing, right before all this corporate stuff, is Clanker. They're doing a lot of AI agents that can execute wallet transactions. And that's just huge. Remember that scenario we were just talking about with the water bottles? There's a hurricane in Florida and the AI agents need to get water bottles to Texas. Clanker is the superior launch pad based on my research to virtuals because of the quality of AI agents. So that's something that we definitely want to keep our eye out for. Of course, absolutely, Iran and these global markets, what they'll affect is the DXY. When you get global conflict, and we brought up actually we had an entire research segment 100% contributed to the Ukraine-Russia conflict, showing, hey, when they did a ceasefire, this would happen. When they had bad news, this was happened. And I'll drop that in the comments to provide some more details. You see, it's these, they did an Easter truth, which like people who were really into this news story, it was like, oh, Vladimir Putin, et cetera, et cetera. They're like, he's faking the ceasefire just to pump the stock market. And then there was another ceasefire in May. So both of those ceasefires, those were bullish. So absolutely. And that, my friend, goes deeper into DXY, intraday action. AOT. This was some good research somebody put together on an agent. Not this one. That does on-chain transactions. Looks like this one. Yeah. So inside of our record, where we've tracked every single classic pattern, the absolute best one, and this pullback is here. This is great. See this cup and handle? The cup and handle will, if it fails to break out, repeat itself, form another cup, and then have a delayed breakout. So we look like we're getting another cup here. This has been hands down the most bullish pattern. The question that we seek to answer here to reframe your outlook, Minley, DM Lindy, is what are institutional investors? What are they buying? There's a lot of traders who are like, I'm going to track what Alex Becker, that guy on Twitter, I'm going to find out whatever he buys, or I'm going to find out what the biggest whales are buying. What we do and what all this macro information is about, the study of the FOMC, the inflation in the morning, this is all about what the institutional investors are buying, tracking them. So based on our information, for one, they're going to be waiting to do their massive purchases in April when the Treasury General account fills. And two, they talked a ton about artificial intelligence, anything supporting AI, even as broad scope as Solana, definitely involved with artificial intelligence. No. So this is, of course, a hybrid trading style. It's not all macros, right, guys? The macros are important, but a lot of us, we really like technical analysis. Am I right? This is like one of the most fun and attractive things for people with a certain mindset, right? Some people like spelling. Some people are into math. for traders, there's an element to looking at the charts that's very attractive to us. So we've all got a technical analysis study inside of us, more or less. Looking at the Bitcoin chart, what do we see here? And this is a head and shoulders clear as day. Looking at the Solana chart, we see almost the identical pattern, albeit on Solana, we've already done the average pullback. So pulling up our trading manual on technical analysis, this is just the basics. And dude, this drives me nuts. How many times I've been watching somebody with like 100,000 subscribers and they're calling an ascending triangle a rising wedge, or like making just a simple misunderstanding. They're just naming a pattern wrong. And of course, this happens a lot with your triangles. The symmetrical triangle, it means it's parallel, right? Both sides coming in like that. If the apex, meaning the nose of the triangle, is a bit higher, that's a wedge, a totally different pattern. So there's a symmetrical triangle, there's a rising wedge, falling wedge, and then there's an ascending triangle, which has a completely horizontal roof, or a descending triangle with a completely flat roof. Like this is an ascending triangle, and this can confuse traders in real time. This is an ascending triangle, as sure as day. It's the handle of a cup. It often gets confused with a rising wedge. Even for advanced charters who know the difference, oftentimes they'll think, well, this is an ascending triangle when it's actually a rising wedge. Something that can help us is do the trend line repeats, but we're not getting into technical analysis right here. We're breaking down Bitcoin to 31K. We're going to show our theory. So right on the cover of this, we've got the head and shoulders. So that's what we wanted in here. The average downside is 70. Solana. Peak was 240. $240 divided by 10 times 3 gives us 30% is 72. So the average downside of a head and shoulders is 70%. We just pulled that up. That's done by studies from the prior 2 cycles. So our target was 72. And yeah, once it was at 100, we were always projecting, don't buy Solana now, let it drop. It's going to come down to 72. Now here's the hybrid situation. This is where we're combining our basic charting, which we all know and love. Everybody into crypto pretty much considers themselves somewhat of a charter. We add the macro element to it. Boom. Right? Like that May 15th trend line we were talking about in the beginning. The Fed just said straight up, once CPI and tariff-based inflation is done, that May 15th trend line will be able to break out of it, which will be huge for tons of altcoins. So we can see, yeah, that was an FOMC minutes right here where they stopped rate cuts. So we're finding a macro support level here. Jumping over to Bitcoin, that's Solana. So Solana did the 70% and it found a macro support level. Bitcoin has the same macro support right when they stopped hiking rates. Everything was cool back in 2023. But the thing is, Bitcoin hasn't dropped 70%. And as sure as rain is wet, that looks like a head and shoulder to me. So in my opinion, we're definitely going to get closer to that 70% downside, which is between 50 and 40. I will be personally executing this trade. I sold a rental property that wasn't really that profitable, a duplex out of state, and I'm going to take that money and I'm going to buy Bitcoin and Caspa with it. But this is the thing.
Public's out there throwing darts at a board, sport. I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things.
I'm going to use every piece of information that I have to make sure that this mortgage that I paid for years is going to not like suddenly take a 30, 50% loss. This is like an important trade, okay? This is like a Bitcoin or Caspa purchase. So I'm going to wait until the Treasury General account dumps. Like we just brought up in the FOMC minutes in the beginning of the video. I can't even pull it up again, but they said right in this document, and we'll have a summary for VIP members going over this. In April, when the Treasury General account refills, the liquidity is going to be thin, just like they said on October 8th. Inside that minutes, 48 hours before the crash. So I'm waiting till April, and I want to see a crash, and I'm going to be sitting like a day trader waiting for it to bottom out, and then I'm going to buy this 6-figure purchase of Bitcoin. I'm not going to DCA out over the next, 6 months. I'm going to go for it correctly using every tool at my disposal. So smash the like buttons if you think that's a good idea. Back to the Bitcoin chart. So we can get that. Timing the downside should be pretty easy. Yes, there is news on Farcaster. For you guys that are into artificial intelligence, for you VIP members who just read my summary on every time they talked about artificial intelligence in this recent meeting, right in the first paragraph, they're talking about how it's going to affect inflation with AI agents. See, they're automating operations. They're already talking about it in the central bank, documents. So we pretty much know that's good for side bags. Clanker, Clanker's run by Farcaster. So to give you guys some actually, let's pull this up here. This will give us way more information. This will give us way more information. To give some backstory on Clanker, they were purchased by this company called Farcaster. Now, who's Farcaster? Well, back in the OG days of crypto, they worked on Coinbase. They helped build the Coinbase infrastructure, and then they branched off to work on their own projects. And sometime in the past 2 years, they purchased Clanker. Right now, inside their corporate headquarters, there's another company called Nugin. I can't pronounce the name. It's an offshore holdings. It's somehow part of the broader Farcaster ecosystem, but yet a totally different company. They're going to take over operations of Clanker. And this, of course, is projected to be a bullish event. This is listed on Binance Alpha. Clanker is on Coinbase and Binance Futures. It's really in this consolidation over the past 2 years. There we go. It's really in this consolidation, and it continuously wicks up to $100. It's really wild. Constantly in consolidation, continues to wick up to $100. Here's a scenario, and this is why I have so I've got that Caspa, that Bitcoin bag I was telling you guys about. With my side bag, my active trading, I've got 2 positions picked out. One is a stablecoin project, brand new. You guys in VIP know what I'm talking about. The way I'm digesting this project, very similar to the way that we trade Caspa. We know eventually this is going to have huge upside. I'm treating it like a savings account. Remember in school they teach you, if you can get 5% every year compound interest? So this project's been vetted, double S tier, triple S tier team, good use case connected to the Genius Act. So it's a savings account over the next 18 months that'll eventually rocket to the upside. It was originally the top contender to break out when the government reopened, but it was superseded by River. So that's how deep that study goes. You guys saw how big that River breakout was. Connected to FOMC minutes. That was when the entry is inside our RWA sector. We had multiple trading plans just to show how deep we've researched this. So I've got one project connected to RWA. These are pretty much all like jump in on River ideas. Way back in the day when it was super low. My other holding is Clanker, flat out, because I believe that it's the #1 contender to be the next virtuals. So here's the scenario of events connected to macro data and on-chain events. For one, with PCE, that comes in low. There's a potential rally happening Sunday when the DXY reopens. Make sure you guys subscribe because we're going to do an awesome live stream on Sunday. Most traders don't even realize the most important day of the week, the most important hour of the entire 7-day week is Sunday at 3 p.m. Vegas time. The DXY has been closed all weekend, and specifically when you have a ton of macro data action-packed in the week before, this Sunday event gives us tons of insight, and it can be a huge breakout catalyst. Like you'll see projects like 3 o'clock, like rocket to the upside. Or if it's bearish, everything will be crashing. So we'll do this live and we'll kind of call out shorts, longs, depending on the PCE data. So definitely subscribe for that. Hit thumbs up, hit the bell notification, or you won't know when we're live streaming. Besides 3, obviously. So here's the chain of events. Beyond this weekend, we get to that April event, right? The bank liquidity goes dry, everything crashes. Now Baston starts pumping everything up. Now liquidity is restored. Now Jerome Powell's been replaced. AI is still on front and center. The altcoin market starts to rally. Now it's either going to take place April, May, or October, right around the election time. This is based on macro research. I've heard other technical analysis that have a good track record, like Ben Cohen, the Bitcoin Maxi. He agrees with that based on his own into the cryptoverse data. So if we can back that up, hybrid style, right? Support what that dude's saying with what we specialize in, we've got a pretty good feel that that's accurate. And this is why there's so much value joining our super discount group, because whatever you're studying on chain, be it technical analysis or you're into the cryptoverse, we'll handle the macro stuff, give you a huge edge correlated to crypto, do all that study, cut, copy, paste, ready to go. Because this stuff, it's terrible, right? Like who wants to read an FOMC minutes? This is not fun, right? But if you've got more than 10K in the market and you didn't read the FOMC minutes, dude, that's like getting into a fight in the octagon with your hands at your side. Even Michael Bigsby can take you out. You got to put your hands up. I mean, come on, guys. This is it, right? We got to do this. This is our job. So you can delegate that to me. Here's the big deal with Clanker. Tariff inflation gets surpassed. The Clarity Act takes place. Oh, yes. And here's the coup d'etat. Whether it's going to be that April-May pivot or it's going to be later around election time, whenever the altcoin season breakout's going to happen, we're already on Binance futures and Coinbase. We get a Binance main exchange listing, right? Plus all this macro, plus, dude, these guys have been printing so many tokens. They're up there with Pump Fund because they have robots printing tokens. So I'm super bullish on that. And here's a great search word for you guys. Let me zoom in here. Binance Alpha. When you're using Crypto Rank, a great way to find out what's trending if you want action or to see what's hot, Binance Alpha. These are projects not listed on Binance, but Binance is reviewing them for a listing. So that's super bullish. and plays into the entire thesis. My entire side bag is Binance Alpha. The majority of the short-term swing trades we put together are Binance Alpha. I mean, you want to be looking at Binance Alpha. Yes, you guys get out there, make babies. It doesn't matter how you want to roll. America's population's down. You can always get a surrogate. You know, if you don't match up or you're too old, try to make out as many kids as you can. You know, you can always keep your same wife and just roll with that. Yes, Jeff Sanders. Great point, Jeff. Great point. You've been saying April dump and April pump. How can there be a massive dump and pump and Caspa hit 12 seconds all in the same frame? This is a great question, Jeff, and I'm happy to go over all this context, show you what we're talking about. So let's rewind to the previous model in April, which is going to happen again undoubtedly. It's an immutable action in all of cryptocurrency. It takes place whether we want it to or not. Right here on April 9th, here's the foundation of this thesis, Jeff. Tax season happens, okay? When the tax season happens, Scott Bessant, you know who that guy is, right? He's got the gray hair. He works with the White House administration. He's pro-crypto. He's actually been on Twitter with Nicki Minaj talking about crypto and politics. Anyway, he used to work for George Soros. He's the mastermind that was like crashing central banks around the world. That's why the White House brought him in, because they're like, dude, you are the man.
I pity the fool.
We want you to work with us. So what will happen is, and what happens every year right around April, is the Treasury General account. And what this is, it's the United States checkbook, Jeff. It's very similar to the Federal Reserve stockpile of bonds and liquidity. It's very similar to that. It's 1/10 the size. So it doesn't run the economy, but it's got enough power to move the market. What's very unique right now, on October 8th, inside that FOMC minutes, they said because of the government shutdown, there's a liquidity crisis. So we all realize how the banks work, right? You've got your deposits in there, and then they're loaning it out 10 times over, right? This is why the fiat system is doomed. They need on-hand liquidity. And to support that, starting at the central banks who print all the money, and then they distribute it to the regional banks and then to the local bank where we go to deposit our paychecks, right? This whole chain, there's this plumbing system to make sure the liquidity comes from Powell and gets to us. And this backs up the DXY markets. When the government shutdown first happened, it really impacted FX trading. They got hit hard because there just wasn't enough cash on hand. It made the liquidity really thin. So all it took was that Morgan Stanley regulation to cause this huge downside. Now, what's been going on, Jeff, inside the FOMC documents recently is they're saying, well, we need to fix this liquidity problem. We need to get the plumbing set back up, and they call that the repo market. There's overnight repo and there's standing repo. The way that it works is it's actually just, so like here in Las Vegas, it's all the banks in the area trading liquidity around with each other. And of course they make like yield off of it because of the treasuries, etc. So for one, the Fed's been scrambling to try to figure out a better way to do this. And for two, they've been buying treasury bills, short-term bonds, not like quantitative easing, just to restore the liquidity. Now, in the last FOMC minutes and in previous live streams, we've been deleting the live streams, just trying to get the ball rolling. We brought it up, and it's like somebody spray painted the word April all over the document, Jeff. Because April is when they're going to be done restoring the liquidity. at the exact same time, this is a unique April, they're done with the liquidity restoration, but here's what's going to happen. And the Fed says over and over again inside this document, we brought it up in the first clip, and I'll be doing a VIP post. We'll show it in a live stream later on. They're saying, watch out, because when the Treasury general account gets refilled after tax season, there's going to be a temporary point where there's super thin liquidity. So looking at a historic reference for this, there was a really bullish FOMC meeting right here, Jeff, where they said, we're going to stop quantitative tightening pretty soon. That's great. Starts to rally, but then the Treasury general account, tax season is over. They draw that liquidity. So the downside, very similar to right now, because the banks don't have liquidity, it's affecting the FX markets. It's affecting the big DeFi pools. They're all dried up with USD. It's not good for crypto, and it's causing downside. So that will happen temporarily, Jeff. It'll be like a flash. Oh, here we go. I've actually got the document. So with RPMs, and what an RPM is, it's like a soft quantitative easing. Let me zoom in here. But it won't be bullish like quantitative easing because it's really connected to that whole liquidity chain of events. The reserves will increase until April, right? Before dropping quickly. And this is the key word here. In the next live stream, I'll bring up the October 8th FOMC minutes and our summary where we realized, dudes, we got a problem. There's going to be some downside coming because there was a liquidity crisis. Now, super Chad mode, using Fed data, we've been able to get out of the way before any downside even happened here. Human error. Undoubtedly, I should have gotten myself and given a heads up to get out here, even though we recognized there was a problem in writing and read it in the minutes. That's how important this document is, Jeff. This document that comes out every 45 days, this is like an earnings report for stocks for all of crypto. And when it says it's going to drop quickly, that's bad. So what we'll get is a quick drop like we saw here in April. And the pivot point was the FOMC minutes. It was one of the only times the minutes pivoted to the upside on the day. Besides here, that was also a minutes. So waiting for that downside. Now, with the CASPA 12% thing, this is getting more into the Fed's outlook on inflation in general. And this might help to actually bring the CASPA and Tau chart up. Oh, too many drawings on this. There we go. We can use a different one. Boom. Perfect. So what happened in May, and we were able to, on the day, people kind of thought I was nuts, but the group members after were like, solid, dude. Thanks. That was good. Powell did an emergency meeting on May 15th. So we watched it in our VIP group. And what Powell was talking about was because of tariffs, okay? And going back to our Chad callouts from earlier, this is important and connected because of why we were able to sell. So we were able to sell here before any downside started, and we planned that out for 45 days. Remember, Jeff, like fly fishing, it's every 45 days. We planned out for 45 days that at this FOMC meeting, the whole market was going to crash. And because Trump was getting into the White House and he was planning on tariffs were undoubtedly going to crash inflation. And inside our trading plans, going over this thesis, why we were selling all of our breakout trades from the rate cuts, the Moonwell, the CASPA, even getting into cash, we planned on sitting in our hands for 120 days. Total chatted it out, but it's all based and connected to May 15th. So after that event, once the market started heating back up, right? Excuse me. Let's just close that one. There we go. So the market starts heating back up after that Chad call out. And what does Powell do? It looks like we're going to go right back up to where we were. Powell comes in and he's like, no, you're going to stop because I'm going to change inflation policy. And this was actually a bluff. They didn't do anything. It's what's called in macro trading jawboning. He just went up there and said, well, we might change the way we're handling inflation, blah, blah, blah. But that's super bearish, enough for us to get out of our whole positions. Look what happened. We come back up. So we ended up buying CASPA again here. It comes back up, bounces off it, and we realized at that rejection point, sell. So we got a bit of profit here from that trade in a big position with CASPA, but we knew we got rejection here, and there was a macro event correlated with that rejection. It was like a high inflation or whatever. Downside ever since. And you're going to see the exact same on Tau. Look at Tau. May 15th, right? Oh, we're recovering from April, right? AI is this big new trend. Tau is ripping to the upside. Stopped in its track. And ever since, that's been shut down. So what the Fed is saying is they want inflation from tariffs. Now, there's two different types of inflation, according to the Fed. There's the big inflation from the 2020 bull run when they did all that money printing during lockdown. And then you've got just your tariff-based inflation. They're anticipating inside this document, let me scroll down to where it is, that the tariff-based inflation will end in the middle of this year with the effect of higher tariffs, which is all connected to that Chad downside that we just explained, higher tariff, Chad crash, and then the rebound, and then how Powell halted the rebound. All based around tariff inflation. That's a macro trend line that we're looking at on CASPA. It's a macroeconomic trend line. Technical analysis thinks it's just a line. With our hybrid system, we know what's causing it. We know the cause and effect. So once that inflation solution, which is CPI, and more importantly, PPI inflation, starts to resolve, starts to come down, then it will warrant the surpassing of that trend line. So I hope that answer your question, Jeff. Smash the thumbs up in the event that it did. What I'm saying indefinitely, based on this based on this information inside this FOMC minutes, where the Fed says directly, watch out for the quick drop in April. Watch out. It's going to drop really quick in April. They used similar language on October 8th. Thin liquidity, look out. I mean, the Fed's actually saying liquidity is going to drop. When liquidity drops, crypto is going to drop too. In the last minutes, they spray painted April all over the place. We're going to keep refilling everything until April. That liquidity, all of it, including the quick drop, is going to Scott Bessant. He's going to get that liquidity in the Treasury General account. It's a bank account of the United States government. We know how bullish on crypto this White House is in. Scott Bessant is going to rotate into risk on asset, inject that liquidity back into the economy. Look at how it hits a low here, April 9th. That's their government piggy bank. And then again, here's the other date, July 9th. Those are the two dates that they pushed all their money into the economy. What happened on crypto? April 9th, July 9th. And those are both FOMC minutes. So in the event you're not reading these yet, you are reading them now. And it is not fun. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people join the group, not just to learn this awesome style, but to build a team around you. You're delegating to me. We have experience over 2 years of doing this, so we're able to pick up different insights. Even if you had full understanding of macroeconomics and you read this FOMC minutes, you wouldn't be able to put together all the puzzle pieces because you don't remember the Chad downside, right? You don't remember the May 15th event, which is all stringing everything together. This is why they say, what's the first rule that anyone says how to become a better trader? Keep a trading journal. Keep a trading journal. We'll bring up more of our trading journal in the next live stream, which will be on Saturday around noon. Make sure you hit the bell notification, subscribe to get in on that, because you're going to have full knowledge of what's about to happen, what's going to happen in April, and all based on what just happened previously. It's all interconnected, super awesome. China wins because they have all the chips in Taiwan. This is a really great point right now, you guys. So I started in the stock market. I've shown my GameStop trade multiple different times. I can actually pull it up. I'm on a live stream, so I don't know what's in the window behind, but I'll have it ready next time. I show my GameStop trade right on Webull. I got in at the bottom and sold at the top. I was in Roaring Kitty's trading group, trading all those like American movies, BlackBerry, GameStop. Stocks right now, crypto stocks, huge undervaluation. So because I'm in this VIP luxury tower, and yes, we're going to get windows tinted, so we'll be able to have something to look at in the background here. We're up on the 40th story. Now, there's some dudes in here that are like they're like $100 million. They have like 3 commas, $100 million value. I hang out with, have coffee with, and part of a trading group with a vibe coder who works for Phantom, a guy who built the original ASIC models, who owns an exchange overseas. He's so cool. He's trying to get me to go to Russia with him. A private equity manager who was just at the BitMine immersion. They're like MicroStrategy for Ethereum shareholder meeting. I'm in a trading group with these guys. We have coffee every morning, and these guys are like super rich. So during the Morgan Stanley market crash, right? Everything rips down. There's a huge offset in the valuation of the stocks. MicroStrategy, because of that Morgan Stanley, right? So their Bitcoin treasury, the amount of Bitcoin they own divided by the shares, right? Their book value, this is off. This is an arbitrage play. And what his big point is right now, don't buy Bitcoin, buy MicroStrategy. So this is an awesome piece of information. Instead of Ethereum, there's BitMine immersion. They just had a shareholder meeting with Mr. Beast, Vitalik, and Sam Altman, all at the win with hors d'oeuvres. You know, it is not easy having a business stole from you like that. I've gone through that with a restaurant chain that I built from the ground up when I was younger. I was able to hire on my entire high school, all my friends, all the beautiful girls I went to high school with. They're all working as waitresses. And I had family kind of cut me out. It's devastating to have a business sold from you. So I actually have some sympathy for BitBoy. They stole his wallets. You know what I mean? Just completely criminal. But how he handled it was ridiculous. Well, I'm glad that you guys are enjoying this stuff. Make sure that you get the word out about this weekend's live streams, particularly in the event that we get PCE data. So yeah, we did a big clickbait, really put our neck on the line about how we are looking for an immediate breakout at the FOMC minutes, like we showed in the beginning of this video. The FOMC minutes always typically, I should say, on average, will take 4 to 5 days to actualize its upside. It's all depending on PCE data. And we could see inside the document itself, it was so heavily based on inflation that this inflation print on Friday makes a ton of sense for what's going to trigger more upside. That's actually my full name scrambled. I'm Jesse William Bissonette. And if you unscramble the letters, it's like WBISONETTE. Pretty cool. Yeah, we all love tariffs. That's how we got in with the Zebek trade. We put together a list of projects that had the deepest connection to tariffs, and we were able to put together a trading plan for Zebek before anybody had even heard of the project. We were the first. For one, because we understood, the Chad reason why everything was on the downside. So while the market was crashed out, we started putting together trading plans for Zebek way down at 001. So that was a huge rip. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Wait till this weekend. Wait until this weekend. Saturday is going to be epic. We're going to go more back into the trading journal to provide more context for people like Jeff, who really want to get into what do you mean inflation tariffs and what's going on with May 15th and how do we break over 12 cents on CASPA? Actually, on Saturday, we're going to do a CASPA specific live stream and show how our textbook that we're making will help people who want to use it like a bank account, just like they taught us in school. 5% compound interest over 5-10 years makes all this money. With crypto, just like in school, you're like, dude, I'd do that if we could get like a bigger percentage. With crypto, boom, you've got it. So with CASPA, buying the dips with macros, swing trading side bags to get more upside. Just think of it as a periodic cycle. You got to hold it a cycle and a half. Boom. And then your huge payday will happen. Of course, we are able to capture over 10x upside on CASPA. We were the original traders to go all in on CASPA. It was Crypto Galaxy and Crypto John, who in my opinion was just copying Crypto Galaxy. They had mentioned it. We got in right here. So many people ran from the CASPA community here. One of the reasons is, remember I told you guys we had the #1 performing patron all across the internet? The entire Peach Fuzz Mafia, they can't make videos about CASPA because everyone was joining our VIP group because we were able to call it correctly and give such deeper context on the who, what, when, and where. This right here, FOMC meeting, right? See that? FOMC meeting before the final breakout. This breakout here, FOMC meeting. Recently, it's been a pivot to the minute. So you can see on the CASPA chart, just look at that. I mean, you got to think, dude, whatever these emojis are, I need to get into that. And that's what you're doing right now. So make sure you hit subscribe. You're welcome, guys. Super awesome. We're going to get into more contacts on that, Jeff, on Saturday. We're going to bring up all the history and build out a more detailed model. Remember, just like how we had the clickbait title and thumbnail breakout tomorrow, but in actuality, in the event the breakout does occur, it's still 4 to 5 days on average for it to start. It's all data dependent, Jeff. We've got to take a look at the data so we can see what the Fed's been doing, what their plan is, and then build on top of that model, which is what we'll do Saturday. And then we'll get variations. Let's say it goes better. Let's say inflation drops sooner. Let's say inflation goes longer, right? And then we'll get a wider range of what's going on, because without a doubt, we know what makes the market move. It's not when Alex Becker buys. It's not when the whale wallets buy. It's institutional capital trying to protect their money from inflation by moving it from long-term yield-bearing bonds like your 10-year treasury, your 2-year treasury, into risk-on assets, specifically crypto. And they do that hand in hand with this macro data. I have security in here. There's like a lot of people that are super important here. This place is like ultimately massively secure. It's fine. There's like armed guards and you can't get in the door. I'm good to go. Gareth Soloway. Dude, absolutely. I actually watched this morning. I want to give you guys a shout out. I want to show you guys Gareth Soloway's channel. Forget about it. I don't want to bring it up, but go check it out. Gareth Soloway did just call out a pump just like us. So what Gareth does is he does a 100% technical breakdown. Okay. He just uses the charts. My version of the hybrid strategy is I heavily use the macro data and I like the technical analysis. What Jared was saying is as long as we're not below this point, we're not invalidated. I'd like to say adding macro to Jared's insight, instead of using this as a validation point, I'd like to use this because that's your CPI data. So going below that would start to invalidate it for me because you're invalidating a macro line, just like 12 cents for CASPA on the May 15th zone. And this is something that in the trading journal, we have, you know, dozens of examples of. That's why I'm taking my time to put together this textbook. It's going to be a course in written format. We'll have some videos. I'd ultimately like to get it published on Amazon so you can have it physically in your hands and then go through the VIP group with it. Like turn to page 10 when we show all of these trend lines and how they're related to macro data. So once that macro data reverses, it's on. Applying that to right now. So Friday is PPI, or excuse me, PCE. In the event that comes in low, it will invalidate the low CPI that just happened and invalidate the Bitcoin bullish thesis. So on Friday, CPI came in, we'll call this the low, but right here on Friday, CPI comes in, it's low, that's bullish. We got a bit of an upside. You can see it more on the total 3. Now Friday, this support can be invalidated or we can rocket to the upside. And what's going to happen in the event we get bullish on Bitcoin, on the total 3 and on specific charts, you'll find that wherever resistance ends up becoming is going to be connected with a different macro data set, a previous inflation print, something like that. And this works like a hand in a glove, guys, like a hand in a glove. So that's what I'd like to add to Gareth Soloway's video. He did it like one day ago. It's got like 80,000 views. Absolutely, you guys. We've been doing these live streams every other day because I've been gains maxing, okay? I hired a personal trainer. There's actually, he trains other people that are inside our VIP group that are CASPA fans, believe it or not. How small of a world is that? I actually put on 10 pounds of solid muscle over 6 months, which is great. So I'm almost done with the personal training and then I'll have a totally free schedule, which makes it easier to do videos every single day. But in the meantime, Saturday in the afternoon and then Sunday, it's going to be huge, specifically if we get a bullish PPI. So this huge data cluster is really all building into Friday's PCE. And of course, the PPI data that's about to come out, this has been bearish over and over again. So look out. In the event we get a breakout, there's going to be more downside starting then. Thanks for checking out this video, guys. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification for Saturday. We're going to go over that PCE data. In the event it comes in bullish, it's on like Donkey Kong because our thesis, supported by Gareth Soloway, for a breakout is going to be good to go. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.